We are live. I'm so excited to be able to introduce you guys to a friend of mine, Alissa Smith. We are going to have such a great conversation. I just already know it because the work that you do is just so interesting. And from the day I met you, Alissa, I was just like so drawn to you, and you have such a gift. So let me just do a little backstory, and then we will I start asking you some questions. So I met Alissa 2 years ago in New York. A girlfriend of mine knew Alissa from a party that she had done, which sounded amazing. And I was just like, I wish I had been at that party because the way that she described it. And I just love the fact that that's one of the things you do. You do parties or groups where you get, and I can't wait for you to share. So anyway, for my birthday, my friend Tammy gave me a gift certificate and I got to go see you. And that was our first time right before I left New York.
Yeah.
And then we have met a number of times since then, and it's always been extremely powerful and enlightening, and just a really great experience. And so, all right, so tell me, Alissa, or tell our viewers a little bit about you and how did you become a spiritual medium or intuitive? I mean, I guess you've always been an intuitive, but.
So, yeah, great question. First of all, hello, and thank you for introducing me to your audience. I've enjoyed, getting to know you over the last couple of years, and watching your journey, which has been fascinating to me. So, thank you. Yeah, so I was born, probably pretty opened up intuitively. My sister is very psychic. My father definitely had a sense, sixth sense, if you will. So it was in our family. But honestly, it was just sort of random. I didn't have any control over it. And frankly, when I would perceive things that I didn't understand, it frightened me. And my sister, too. We used to go to bed holding on to each other at night, pull the covers up over our heads. And through my own life journey, it was really getting into, about my mid-30s. I had entered into a difficult phase of my own life. And turned to meditation. And in my meditation, I started to ask for guidance. And lo and behold, I started to hear my guidance. And I would follow it. And then the next thing would open up. And after a little while of this, my life began to flow in a very different way. And I was able to find my own way out of a really difficult situation I had got myself into over a period of years. And I can't tell you, that was, 15 years ago now. My life, you wouldn't know. It's 100% different. Everything changed one step at a time. But through the help I was getting in my own meditations, I began to open up to receive help and guidance for other people. I actually believe that we can all access guidance, higher guidance, a higher perspective, and even maybe perceive and receive information from beyond the veil, as we say, for those of our loved ones who have passed out of the physical and are now in non-physical. So I started offering this for other people, and then I actually went to school to learn how to hone the skill, if you will, and learn how to open up and close down. I do not stay open all the time. I got enough of my own problems without seeing everybody else's energy all the time. Yeah, so that's kind of what happened. I'm a spiritual medium, so I do a lot of connecting people with their past loved ones.
Yeah.
So what I do is called evidential mediumship. So there'll be a lot of details that will affirm to my person I'm reading for that this really is. Details will come out that only you and your loved one knew, right? Who's now in spirit. And then I do some spiritual counseling. I do some healing work. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's been a journey, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
You know what I love about what you said, because it's something that I think sometimes people struggle with, is this whole idea of needing to know everything. And when you started and you were open and you asked for guidance, they gave you that next step and the next step and the next step. And when you're teaching law of attraction, and when you do what I do, like that's such a big step to trust that the universe, God, spirit has your back and is working with you, and that all you need to do is just pay attention to what's your next step. Be open to that inspiration of your next step. So I love that you described that, because that really is kind of how it works. And I
And
know that even
you just said the magic word, which is trust. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. But if we do it, I find that we are met more than halfway with what we need coming from the universe, the other side, our guides, whatever your terminology is.
yeah. So I say it from the standpoint of being a co-creator. I'm creating from my world and what I can do, but it's in connection with that higher self, guides, like all of that. And so I think that was what was so awesome in working with you, is to know on a different level, that I'm not alone, that there are people, that have passed, and not to mention, the higher power that's there, that is always supporting you. And I also like the fact that you're right. I think we all definitely have that ability. I've always I was raised to understand that, because one of the first books that was part of my family's sort of religion was a book by this guy named Alan Kardec. And the book is all about the spirits and mediums. And so like I grew up knowing that was it, and that we all had that power. But I think life gets in the way, and you don't use it in the way that you might have. And I'm so happy that for you that's what you were guided to, because that's really, really cool. So let me ask you this. What is the favorite? I mean, you do a lot of different things. And maybe you can just describe, you did describe a little bit about what that was, but what's your favorite?
Mediumship by far. And by that, I mean, truly being able to connect people still in the physical with their loved ones, non-physical, their loved ones in spirit, those that have passed on. There is nothing like that reassurance and assurance that the energy of love lives on, right? Wow. And the details that will come out, and sometimes the closure that people will get, or the healing, or a lot of times a spirit person talking to me will actually answer a question that I didn't even know my client in front of me came in needing to have answered, right? They never verbalized it. And right through, which shows them that their spirit person is aware of their energy, what they're going through, what maybe the support they need, or the closure that they might need, right? So there's nothing like that. To access that eternal energy of love, and be able to share that with somebody else, that's my favorite.
That's pretty cool. I don't know if you can share, but do you have a particular story that really sort of stands out for you that you could kind of share without necessarily details, where somebody goes,
yes, let me just think. There are so many, right? So mediumship readings run the gamut of, your grandmother who's passed that you were very close to coming through, to, parents of children who died in tragically car accidents. I get a lot of overdose, sometimes even by suicide. And the message of love pretty much is the same in all the readings. It's amazing, with the specific details that their loved ones here on earth need to hear, right? But here's a kind of a funny story. I was reading for a woman whose husband had crossed, and we had established through the evidential information that had come through, his name and his manner of passing, and his the street they lived on. There were all these details that were coming out through the reading. So she knew beyond a shadow of a doubt he was really present. And then he says to me, bring up about the other woman. And I'm like, oh, So I'm back in my mind. I'm talking to spirit in my mind the whole time. I'm like, no, I can't say that. But my rule for myself is if they bring something up 3 times in a reading, I have to say it. So I'm just here to be the channel. So I ignore it for 2 times. I'm in the 3rd time. And what happens to me is if I ignore what they're telling me, they stop communicating with me, right? I don't get any more information. So after the 3rd time, finally, I go, I think, okay, trust. That's what I've learned, if nothing else, is to trust. There's intelligence in spirit. There is a love here. And I say to the woman, I am so sorry to bring this up, but he's bringing up to me about the other woman. And she just nearly dies laughing. Well, it turns out nobody knew, but the inside joke between the 2 of them, husband and wife, was their little girl dog who adored him, didn't care for her, right? And they called her the other woman. The other woman in their marriage.
Oh my
She
God.
knew exactly what he was saying. It was what she needed to hear, that one last little piece to know for sure. If he was there, he retained his sense of humor, right? He was teasing her. So a couple things about that I love. It's a great story, but it reminds me one more time to trust what we're getting, trust the message, right? Open yourself up to spirit, set your intention for the best and highest good, and then trust what's coming through. It was just what she needed to hear.
Yeah, and it's so funny because that is a great story, and it's what she needed to hear, and it's the lesson that you needed to learn from the trust perspective. But you know what it brought to mind? You know, I'm a big Abraham Hicks
Yeah.
and so when Jerry transitioned, Esther Hicks' husband, like they had a pact that they were going to continue to communicate with each other. And so, you know, every once in a while you'll hear a story that she tells about, you know, he was a prankster or had a sense of humor, and so the things that continue to happen in her life that, you know, absolutely 100% clue her in that he's still there and he's still, you know, an intimate part of her reality, even though he has passed. And so I love that, because I think that if you are someone who, you know, if you're someone who has questions or needs that connection, you know, to know that you have the ability to do that is really a wonderful thing. So I would invite anybody, because one of the things that I wanted to make sure to mention is, you know, I think that in the past, obviously, we would come, like when I first met you, I came to your house and we did it in your office, which is beautiful, such a tranquil place. But since I moved, every time that we've met, it has been over Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, just like I know energy healers who do their work and can do it through Zoom, it's so important to recognize that, you know, what we recognize as 3-dimensional is not in any way restricting what happens in terms of energy and in terms of your work with spirit, because it's everywhere and it doesn't make any difference. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Absolutely. That's a terrific point. Yes. So spirit is not bound by time and space. We, 3rd dimension physical beings, well, we are in certain ways, right? And that's how we think, linear time. But truly I really only see about half my clientele in person. The other half is by Zoom or even just over the phone. So you don't even have to have the visual. And those readings are just as accurate, just as love filled, just as meaningful as the in-person experience. So yeah, it doesn't matter. Geographical location really doesn't matter to spirit if you think about it. Of course not, but we tend to think, you know, that might make a better experience or whatever. And I have found that truly that doesn't matter. So yeah, I'm lucky enough to be able to work from anywhere over a phone or a computer and still bring forward the messages that need to come through for people.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's great, because I mean you can have clients anywhere, and they can come from anywhere,
Yeah.
and you can be anywhere. Like that's something to
Absolutely.
aspire to. So let me ask you this: what are sort of the typical things that people want to connect with you around?
Yes. So a lot of times people who need to get a message or be assured or understand validation from their loved ones in spirit, that's the mediumship work.
Right.
I also do spiritual guidance sessions, as I call them. And that would really be um, that would be when somebody wants some guidance in their life in regards, say, maybe career or their finances or their relationships. Why is this happening? Where is it going? What changes could I make? And so what I would be doing there is connecting with the person's own auric field, which has all kinds of information, past, present, and future in it, right? But also accessing their own spiritual guidance team, which we all have, whether we know it or not, and whether we communicate or not, we have that. And so always the information I ask for it to be delivered in an empowering way for the individual asking the questions, and to be for their best and highest good. What do they need to know for their best and highest good around this situation? I'm also a medical intuitive, and so oftentimes health health situations will come up, and you may get well, because all that information's in the auric field. And since I do read energy and I can see the field, your guides may point me in that direction to talk about something that you may need to give attention to with your health. So those are spiritual guidance sessions. And I also do some energy clearing and chakra attunement and that sort of thing. And then the other thing that I love is absolutely is teaching others how to access their own inner wisdom, their own intuition. And then I teach other people who want to learn mediumship that also.
Yeah.
And that's my other favorite part.
That's something that is just fascinating to me, which, at some point I will be your student because I just am fascinated by it. And I know that that would just add to what I do. So I think that would be a really cool thing. So let me ask you a question that just popped into my head. So do you ever have a situation where you're getting information that you're concerned about delivering?
Yes.
And how do you handle that, I
That
guess?
will happen okay, so a couple things. And I believe every intuitive probably works differently, but here's how I work. And if you're someone who I'm teaching, this is how I teach them. I always ask for information only for the best and highest good. Okay. Sometimes forewarned is forearmed. Okay. It's never to frighten them. But I may need to tell someone, you know what? You need to be really careful about your driving for the next little bit. Okay. Listen to your guidance. Don't go somewhere too late, something like that. But if I see information, if I'm doing a reading, but something comes up that I see about someone's health, but they're not asking about their health, I immediately go back up to the guides and say, is this meant to be shared in this moment? Is this meant to be shared? And if so, show me how. Show me how in a way that's empowering, right? And so honestly, I never know what's going to come up in a session, but I have to, as you're saying, trust the process. I have learned to trust the process. There is an intelligence, there's a loving intelligence. And I hope that's what people feel and access in every session. That's certainly what I want to be the vehicle to channel, because our team around us, our higher self, they're rooting for us. They want the best and highest good, and they want us to be able to access that. And so that's the energy I bring with me into a session and try to impart to the person I'm working with. And so I find that if I trust, then it comes clear. How do I say this? What's the most empowering way to impart this information? Yeah, that's how it works for me.
Oh, I love that answer because there's so many points about that just resonate with me. I mean, you have a choice about how you want to look, not you personally, but you as a person always have a choice about how you want to look at something and perceive something, feel something. And I love that for you, it's so important. I mean, obviously it's your belief system that we live in a spiritual beings in a human experience, but that the power there is from the standpoint of good, the power of love, that energy of love. And so I love that. And then the other thing that you said, and so your intention in anything that you do is always sort of centered around that. And I can tell you, having worked with you, that that definitely comes out. Like it's so empowering, and it's always for the highest good. And that was going to be my second thing, which is I love that. Like from a manifesting perspective, you have a clear idea of what it is that you want, but you have to know that source, universe, God, whatever you want to call it, knows the best plan for you. And so whenever you put out there what your desire is, you're always going to want to say that this or something better. And so that's kind of like the same thing you're saying, for the highest good of all. And it's so funny because every time I pick a card in the morning, because that's part of my morning routine, I always ask, what's going to serve me, but what's going to serve the highest good. So I just love that, because that just validates for me that those are important.
Absolutely.
Looking at the world and being,
Yes. Yes. And it's a great way to, it's a great backup. I don't have, you know what I'm saying? And I do believe in, and I think you teach this too, the power of our intention.
Yeah.
And so I have been lucky enough to experience how much love there is, how much love and support there is trying to come in to us at all times. And I truly hope that other people can experience that as strongly as I've been blessed to. And so that's my intention, right? And it's a wonderful place. I mean, I fall short all the time, right? How many times a day do I have to reset my energy, or just notice I'm not in that intention, right? And reset. But we're human.
Exactly. And I have to tell you that that's been, such an enlightening part of my journey, which is to have grace and compassion with myself for being human. And even though I absolutely love this work and I love helping people to understand that connection that they have to really harness their energy and change your story and figure out what you need to focus on, we are just human, and we get to experience the same things everybody else does. And thankfully, because of our knowledge and our education, we can get it a little quicker. And that's the gift that we're able to give me in terms of understanding, so I can help them move forward. And you, by the gift that you have in connection with their guides and their people, through you, to be able to kind of help them to know the bigger picture, or the guidance that they need to really kind of step into their own power. So, I just love that. That's such a cool thing. So oh my God, I feel like I have almost asked you all of my questions.
Well, let me just say, can I add something to what you just said?
Sure, absolutely.
So I actually believe that we all have this gift. It's just some of us are born maybe with it a little more highly tuned or more sensitive, maybe, and then other people maybe need it to be awakened a little bit, right? But I actually believe, and the goal would be for as many people as possible to learn how to access their own inner wisdom, learn how to know when they're getting a visitation from a loved one who's crossed over, learn how the signs in nature are showing up for us all the time, how playful, right? the energy is that's around us. And so I would hope one day that enough of us are empowered to access our own divine wisdom, our own intuition, the information from our higher self, and the realms around us, just past the physical, right? So that's what I love too, is being able to show people how to access their own gift, because we all have it.
Yes, and I agree. And I have to tell you that I am gonna just share, like, in the last couple of months, again, when you're starting something new, when you're trying to level up, when you're trying to work into your power, you get confronted with things that you need to work on. And so it was really interesting, because in hindsight, like, that was happening. And yet I was having like all these signs, my numbers are 111 and 1111. And even in the last few days, 555, 222, the 111, like I've realized that the hawk is my spirit animal, because there was a period of time when that's all I was seeing. And I was like, and so, to be able again to trust that those are signs, that it's not by coincidence that these things are happening. And again, to be able to have grace with yourself that, you know what, you're doing the work. It kind of sucks sometimes, but you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You are where you're supposed to be. Like, that's okay. It sucks, but you're where you're supposed to be. So let me just follow up with, so what would you say to people who are watching us, who are interested? I mean, obviously, I'm going to encourage people to get to contact you, because you're amazing. I have been to mediums and had my cards read and, kind of done that stuff because I believe and I am interested, but you would be my spiritual advisor for sure. But for people who want to start being more open, like, they're maybe not ready, but what would be a practice that you would recommend, or what would you say in terms of things that people can start doing to become more open?
Absolutely. Okay, so one thing I love to do is when we go to sleep at night, the time before we go to sleep is very powerful, right? We're going to have maybe 6, 7, 8, right? Maybe even 9 hours where we're not in the ego mind, right? That stuff that we have to get into and then our personalities. And I try to, for myself and my students, I always will say, ask a question that you need a higher perspective on, or that you need help with, or a situation. Let that come up before you go to sleep at night, okay? And ask to be shown what you need to know about this. What do I need to know? What do I need to do? What would be the best and highest thing for me to do here, right? How could I act out of love in this situation? You don't have to feel loving. You don't have to, you don't have to feel, it could be anything. And I've asked it about the most trivial things, like that I've lost my wallet. Where is it? To, a major relationship problem with one of my children, to health issues. I mean, and then I put it into the hands of my guides, my higher self, and I go to sleep. And you know what? Sometimes I get waked up in the middle of the night and the answer is there. Sometimes I have a dream and the answer is there. Sometimes I don't feel like I got any answer, but I don't stop asking. And I swear the answers are there for us if we will only ask. And maybe the first thing I would say to people, start asking. There's no stupid questions. There's no bad questions, right? A lot of times a lack of clarity is because we don't ask, or we don't know that there's something, that there could be a piece of guidance coming in for us. Now, we may not get a whole life plan for the next 10 years. I usually get one step at a time, right? What's the next right thing for me to do?
Well, and like you said from the beginning, that really is the way.
Absolutely.
Like, that one step leads you to the next step and the next step and the next step, because that is, I at least it's been my experience, and in everything that I've read and listened and studied, is that it's not like laid out. It's just the next step.
Right. And we get to make the choice. We get to make the choice at every step. How do I want to handle this, right? So sometimes maybe it's just the choice to ask. And frankly, sometimes we don't know what to ask, and that's okay too. I'll just present myself and out to my higher self and my guides, and I'll be like, I don't even know what to ask, but I'm a mess. I need help to know, right? I need help to get my energy shifted. I'm angry and I don't want to stop being angry, right? Like,
right. Help me.
Help me. It doesn't matter where we are or what we need help with, or that we don't even know what we need help. Start from where we are, put the energy up there, and trust that the answer will come. And then you know what? The next most important step is, when you get the guidance, follow it. Because when you follow it, it's going to come stronger next time. and it's like muscle. The more you use it, the more it's there for you.
I love that. And I'm going to say that the flip side of that is, from a manifesting perspective, is when we ask and we are open and we don't have resistance, is when you get that idea, when you get that inspiration, follow it quickly. Because if you don't follow it quickly, our programming gets in the way. Oh, I tried that before, or I don't know if it's going to work. Like, no, just go do it. Because that's
what
where the
magic. I would add to that from an intuitive perspective is it's usually the first hit after we ask our question, or the first feeling, or the first answer. And this is why it's important what you just said too. It's the first impulse of that higher energy, and then it's our ego that argues with it. Well, that can't be right. Oh, I think I just made that up. Oh, that would be too dangerous to do. I don't think that action is wise. Okay, so one thing we have to overcome is self-doubt, that talk that wants to question or make a drama out of everything. Guidance tends to be simple, easy in the sense that we can do it even if we don't want to do it, right? And it's usually empowering and comforting in some way, even if it's putting me out of my comfort zone, right? And it has that flavor, whereas the ego will tend to draw us into drama, complicate things, have further questions, that are imponderable, and leave us kind of in that space of unknowing or lack of clarity.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's really, really powerful. And I think the other thing that I just want to anchor that you just said is that when you do follow your intuition, then your energy it continues to be open, and you're showing the universe that you are open, and you get more of it. And then the other thing that I want to just mention is that you can receive those messages in lots of different ways. Like, you can visually see something, you can hear something in your head, you can have a feeling about it. So everybody has a little bit of a different way that they may receive the information. So be open to that.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Oh my God, I could talk to you about this.
So much fun.
I love
it. Do you want to share my website?
Oh, no, absolutely. So we have two questions. One is, how can people get a hold of you?
So the best way is to go on my website, which is Alissa, Alissa, AlyssaSmithIntuitive.com. You can read all about what I do there. I can be booked directly there. Also, my social media, Instagram, Alissa Smith Intuitive, and on Facebook, Alissa Smith Intuitive.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. And I love your website. It's very easy. Just user-friendly and explains everything. It's great. And then the last thing, my last question for you, is what's the impact that you want to have on the world?
Great question. Two impacts. One is for people to understand and actually feel touched by love. When that happened for me, it changed my life. I did not think I was lovable. I didn't think I was worth loving. And there are many people who I think hold that or suffer from a feeling of that. There is infinite love. We are so loved. So being able to touch into and feel that for ourselves, for each person. I certainly hope to be a vehicle of that in my own little way in my sessions. And the other would be to how many people can awaken to their own intuitive abilities and live a life that's in flow with their own intuition. No matter how many times we mess up, doesn't matter. We have a choice the next moment, right?
Yeah.
So that would be what I would say for that.
And in this space and time, both of those impacts are so incredibly important. To understand that we are loved, and we are loved, not just we are loved, but we are love. And because you're right, I think that so many people just, for whatever reason, didn't get it, don't understand, and it's so important. And then I love your second one as well, because as you said, we all have that ability to live our best life. And that means being connected to God, higher power, source, whatever we want to call it, in a way that we are supported and we feel that support, and know that anything's possible. Like that's what I love about what I do, is helping people to really know, do you realize that anything is possible? That's so powerful. But anyway, oh my God, Alissa, thank you so much. You know that I've been wanting you to come on here for a while, and I'm just so thrilled that we got a chance to talk and to connect. And I'm really, really happy about sharing your gift and who you are with everybody and anybody, because it's amazing. And we have a future date that we talked about a couple of years ago. So when I have my bookstore here in Tampa, you're going to come.
I will be there. I will book a flight.
We're going to have some groups, and I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to have some fun, and we're going to get to share your abilities and gifts with even more. So this is just the start, and I'm so thankful for you in my life.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And thanks for having me on today. And yes to the future, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on there. And I'm going to end it. And for those of you guys who have been on the broadcast with us, thank you so much for tuning in. Because I'm using StreamYard, for some reason, I can never see the messages, which is fine, because we will go back and respond. And we'll even put, Alissa's website on one of the comments so that you have easy access to that. So thank you again. Thank you, Alissa. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right.